Welcome YouTubers to another episode in my Grammar Hero series. In this video, I'm going to show you the solutions to the problems in the arithmetic reasoning section of ASVAB AFQT practice test number 6. In case this is your first time finding my YouTube channel, I quickly want to mention that I recently created a website called mastertheasvab.com. There you can take 6 practice tests as well as estimate your AFQT score. All that said, let's go ahead and get started with today's video. Question 1 says, a stack of bricks is 3.5 feet high. If each brick is 1 3/4 inches high, how many bricks are in the stack? Okay, so to solve this one, we have to recognize that we have something given in feet as well as something given in inches. In other words, we have to make a conversion either of inches to feet or feet to inches to solve this one. As it turns out, it's easier to convert feet to inches, so that's what I'm going to do as the first step. More specifically, I'm going to convert 3.5 feet. We all know half a foot is 6 inches, and 3 feet is 3 times 12, 36 inches. So 3.5 feet is the same as 36 plus 6, or 42 inches. Okay? So in light of that, we know that the stack of bricks is 42 inches high, and if each brick is 1 3/4 inches high, how many bricks are in the stack? Well, instead of regarding this as 1 3/4, I'm going to regard this as 1.75. That's the same. And what I'm going to do more specifically is do 42 divided by 1.75. And that will tell me how many, and let me rewrite that. That's a little sloppy. Just bear with me here. My mouse is acting up a little bit this morning. So again, I'm doing 42 divided by 1.75. In other words, I'm trying to figure out how many 1.75 inch bricks are there in a 42 inch stack. As it turns out, this requires us to do division with a decimal that's outside the division bracket. It turns out that we cannot do long division with this decimal outside this division bracket. So what you have to do is you have to shift this decimal 2 times to make 1.75 175. And what you do outside the division bracket, you do inside the division bracket to keep proportionality. So I moved this twice, so I'm going to move this twice and fill in zeros accordingly. So in reality, I'm doing 4,200 divided by 175. So now the question is, how many times does 175 go into 4? It doesn't, it's too small. How many times does 175 go into 42? It doesn't, it's too small. How many times does 175 go into 420? 150 times 2 would be 300. So 175 is going to go into 420 about 2 times. Let's work that off to the side. 175 times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Carry a 1. 7 times 2 is 14 plus 1 is 15. Carry the 1. 1 times 2 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So I know this is going to be 350. Let's subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. 42 minus 35, that's 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. It's going to be 7. And of course, we have to drop down this 0 here. Now the question is, how many times does 175 go into 700? I'm going to take a guess and say that's going to be 4 times. So let's work that off to the side to confirm it. 5 times 4 is 20. Carry the 2. 7 times 4 is 28. Plus 2 is 30. Carry the 3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So in other words, 175 times 4 will be 700 on the dot, which means there's no remainder, which also means that in a pile of bricks that's 3.5 feet or 42 inches tall, there would be 24 1 3/4 inch bricks. Okay, so that's the answer to this one. Again, you had to be comfortable doing the arithmetic with decimals and whole numbers. So that was that one. Let's go ahead and move on to question number 2. All right, question 2 says, a book regularly sells for $28. The book is on sale for 20% off. How much is the sale price of the book? So to figure out the sale price, which I'm going to call SP, we're going to take the original price, which I'm going to call OP, minus the discount. Again, sale price equals original price minus discount. So let's go ahead and start figuring out what these things are. Again, the original price is $28, and we know it's 20% off. So I need to figure out what 20% of 28 is. To figure that out, I'm going to do 28 times 0.2. Again, we're multiplying a whole number by a decimal, and in light of that, I have to convert this decimal to a whole number by shifting its decimal place one time to the right. So in reality, I'm doing 28 times 2, albeit with one decimal to move back in to the left at the end of this problem. 8 times 2 is 16, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Shift that one decimal back in. So we can see that 20% of $28 would be $5.60. Now, again, we're trying to find the sale price, so I'm going to do 28 minus 560, and I'm going to do that off to the side. 28, I'm going to add some zeros to make it easier. 560, subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 6 I can't do. I have to borrow from this 8. This becomes 7. This becomes 10. This 10 minus 6 is 4. Drop down your decimal in place. 7 minus 5 is 2. 2 minus nothing is just 2. So we can see that the sale price is going to be $22.40, which is right there. So that was that one. Again, a lot of decimal work to do in these first two problems, and you should expect that on the ASVAB. You have to get comfortable with decimals. Let's go ahead and move on to number 3. Number 3 says a scale on a map says that 1 inch represents 60 miles. If the distance between 2 points on the map is 2.5 inches, how many miles are between the 2 points? So whenever you see problems involving maps and scales, what you want to do is set up a proportion. We're told that 1 inch corresponds to 60 miles, and we want to figure out how many miles 2.5 inches corresponds with. Okay? In this case, we simply just cross multiply. That is, I do 60 times 2.5 and 1 times x. So this gives me x equals 2.5 times 60, which I'm going to work off to the side. 60 times 2.5. Again, we're doing multiplication with a whole number and a decimal. In order to do that, I have to shift this decimal place one time to the right. So in reality, I'm doing 60 times 25, albeit with one decimal to shift back in at the end. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30. Add a 0 since we're starting this number. 2 times 0 is 0. 6 times 2 is 12. Let's go ahead and add. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 3 plus 2 is 5. 1 plus nothing is 1. Add our 1 decimal back in. We can see that x, which is the unknown distance, would be 150 miles. Okay? Again, a simple proportion. First 3 problems in this practice test have forced you to do division and multiplication with decimals. So, again, you got to get comfortable with that. Moving on to number 4, which I hope doesn't have decimals in it, although it probably will. Number 4 says a car has a 15-gallon gas tank. If a car gets 32 miles per gallon and travels 384 miles, how much gas will be left in the tank? So the first thing I want to do is figure out how many gallons were used to go 384 miles. To do that, I'm going to do 384 divided by 32. That is, I got to do some long division. 32 goes into 3. It doesn't. It's too small. 32 goes into 38 one time. 1 times 32 is 32. 38 minus 32 is 6. Drop down this 4. 32 goes into 64 2 times. 2 times 32 is 64, so there's no remainder. In other words, if a car got 32 miles per gallon and went 384 miles, it used 12 gallons of gas. Again, we have a 15-gallon tank, so 15 minus 12 leaves you with 3 gallons of gas left in your tank. Okay? Again, long division's pretty important for the ASVAB. You're going to have to do it, so might as well get comfortable doing it now. Let's move on to the next one. You will see questions on the ASVAB involving percent increases and decreases. Number 5 says a man's hourly wage increased from $12.50 to $13.50. What percent raise did he get? So to find the percent increase, we're going to find the amount by which his salary or wage increased. $13.50 minus $12.50 is just $1. That's pretty easy. And we're going to place that dollar over his original hourly wage, which is $12.50. And this will get us the percent of his raise. So again, we're being forced to do long division. All fractions can be regarded as long division. This is 1 over 1250, or in terms of long division, it's 1 divided by 1250. And again, we're being forced to do long division with the decimal outside the division bracket. If this decimal was inside this division bracket, we can proceed. But since it's outside the division bracket, we have to make some adjustments before we can continue. More specifically, I have to shift this decimal 1 2 times to make 1250, 1250. And what I do outside, I have to do inside, so I shifted it twice. The decimal's technically here, so I'm going to go 1 2. Okay? So in reality, I'm doing 1250 and 100. Okay? Now the question is, how many times does 1250 go into 100 without going over? It doesn't. 100's too small. I have to add a 0. When I add that 0, I have to add a decimal up there. Now the question is, how many times does 1250 go into 1,000 without going over? It doesn't. It's too small. I have to add a 0. By adding that 0, I now have to add a 0 up there. Now the question is, how many times does 1250 go into 10,000? And if you can do the math, let's say this was 8. 8 times 1 would be 8,000. 8 times 25 would give you 2,000. 8,000 plus 2,000 would get you 10,000. So this is going to be 8 And let me just prove that to you, in case you don't believe me. 0 times 8 is 0. 8 times 5 is 40. Carry the 4. 8 times 2 is 16 plus 4 is 20. Carry the 2. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 2 is 10. Okay, so this is 8. 8 times 1250 is 10,000. So we can see there's no remainder. So his hourly wage increased by 0.08, which is the same as 8%, which is right there. Number 6 says your grades on 4 math exams are 80, 93, 88, and 91. What grade do you need on your next exam to have at least a 90 average on the 5 exams? So in this case, we're going to be using the average formula to set it up. Specifically, I know what the average I want to be is. It's got to be 90. And to find the average, we add up all the data points, divide by how many data points there are. So we got 80 plus 93 plus 88 plus 91 plus, oops, that should be a plus, not an x. I'm thinking a little ahead here. Plus x over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equals 90. Again, we want to know what the score, what your score on this 5th exam, which I'm going to call x, must be in order for you to have a 90 average in the class. So in this case, we're solving for x, which is all the way over here. First thing I'm going to do is multiply both sides by 5. Okay, by doing that, we get rid of this. 5 times 9 is 45. Therefore, 90 times 5 is 450. And we're left with 80 plus 93 plus 88 plus 91 plus x. Before I move all these to this side, what I want to do is combine them. More specifically, I'm going to add them vertically. So I have 93, 91, and this is where I typically make mistakes. So I'm going to try to do this as accurately as possible. 88 and 80. 8 plus 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, plus 1 is 12. Carry the 1. Let's see, 8 plus 8 is 16. 9 plus 1 is 10. 10 plus 9 is 19. 19 plus 16 is going to be 20. Let's see. Let's go ahead and work that out. 19 plus 16. 19 plus 9 plus 6 is 5. Carry the 1. 35. So this is 352. 450 equals 352 plus x. And again, we're solving for x, so we're going to subtract 352 from both sides. This crosses out. We're left with x equals 450 minus 352. 450 minus 352. Let's go ahead and do that. If you can see it, that's great. If you can't see it, I'm going to work it out for you. 450 minus 350 would be 100. 450 minus 352 is 2 less than 100, so it'd be 98. But if you can't see that, we'll work it out. We have to borrow here since we can't do 0 minus 2. This becomes 4. This becomes 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. 4 minus 5 I can't do. I have to borrow. This becomes 3. This becomes 14. 14 minus 5 is 9. 3 minus 3 is 0. And now we can see that in order for you to have a 90 average on the 5 exams, your 5th exam must be a 98. Okay, so that's that one. And again, in my earlier videos, instead of finding the missing value, I'll simply ask you to find the average. So you have to be able to do both of those things. Number 7 says if you pay $22.90 for a DVD that includes 7% sales tax, what is the price of the DVD before the sales tax was applied? This is a pretty tough problem, in all honesty, because what we're saying is $22.90 equals the original price, X, plus 0.07 times X. That is, X is the original price plus 0.07 times X, which is the sales tax. So you can actually imagine there's a 1 here. So you can say 22.9 equals 1.07x. And now to do this problem, it's only a matter of solving for x. That is, you want to divide both sides by 1.07. Divide this by 1.07. This crosses out. You're left with x equals 22.9 divided by 1.07. Let's go ahead and work on that. Again, all fractions can be considered long division. 22.9 divided by 1.07 looks like this. 22.9 divided by 1.07. Again, we're doing long division with a decimal that's outside the division bracket. So I have to shift this 1 2 times to make that 107. Whatever I do outside the bracket, I do inside the bracket 1 2. So this becomes 2,290. In reality, I'm working this problem out, and let me write it right here. 107 and 2,290 right there. Let me fix that 107. A little sloppy there. Okay. So once we get this long division, we're good to go. How many times does 107 go into 2? It doesn't, it's too small. How many times does 107 go into 22? It doesn't, it's too small. How many times does 107 go into 229? That's going to be twice without going over. 107 times 2, and this is going to be very tedious. 7 times 2 is 14. Carry the 1. 2 times 0 is 2, plus 1 is just 1. 1 times 2 is 2. So this would be 214. Now we're going to do 229 minus 214. 9 minus 4 is 5. 2 minus 1 is 1. 2 minus 2 is 0. Drop down this 0. Now the question is, how many times does 107 go into 150? That should be pretty obvious. It should be 1. 1 times 107 is 107. Subtract. 0 minus 7 we can't do. We have to borrow. This becomes 4. This becomes 10. 10 minus 7 is 3. 4 minus nothing is 4. 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay? And we have to... At this point, we can see that the answer is shaping up to be 21. So we can go ahead and cross this one out. We know it's not right. And once we figure out this last piece, you can see that's a 4, a 3, and a 5. We'll be done. Okay? Now the question is, how many times does 107 go into 43? It doesn't. 43 is too small. I have to add a 0. When I add that 0, I have to actually add a decimal. How many times does 107 go into 430? Again, your choices, if you're smart, you would say my choices are 5, 3, and 4. So let's do 107 times 4. 7 times 4 is 28. Seven times 4 is 28. Sorry about that. That was my ringtone. Carry the 2. 4 times 0 is 0 plus 2 is 2, and 1 times 4 is just 4. So we can see that this is going to be 428. So this is going to be 4. We're going to go ahead and be satisfied that that is our answer. We got 21.4 there. No need to keep working out. We've got our answer. All right, so that was that one. All right, number 8 says a toll is $2 for a car and the driver, and 75 cents for each 75 cent. Let's put an S on that for each additional passenger. The toll comes out to $4.25. How many total people are in the car? So we got the driver and the car for $2. If we add 75 cents to that for a passenger, it'd be $2.75. If we add another passenger, again, this is one passenger. If we add another passenger, it's going to be $3.50. And if we add a third passenger, it's going to be $4.25. Again, this is the driver, which counts as a person. So we have a driver and 4 passengers, which gives us a total of 4 people in the car. So that's that one. Again, you should have been able to do that one mentally. So let's go ahead and move on to number 9. Again, some of these are pretty straightforward, whereas some of them aren't. Let me go ahead and make sure I get the problem first. All right, number 9 says a plane left San Francisco at 6:15 Eastern Standard Time and arrived in Philadelphia at 2:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. How long was the flight? Well, we got 6:15, 7:15, 8:15, 9:15, 10:15, 11:15, 12:15, 1:15, 2:15, and then 2:45. To go from 2:15 to 2:45, that's 30 minutes. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. So as we can see, this is 8.5 hours, or 8 hours and 30 minutes. So that's that one. Let's go ahead and move on to number 10. Again, some of these are pretty straightforward. Right, number 10 says a jet traveled 4,329 miles in 3 hours. What is its average speed in miles per hour? Right away, we should know that we're dealing with the distance formula, which is distance equals rate times time. Miles is distance, hours is time. We want to know the average speed, which is rate. So we just plug these things into our distance formula accordingly and solve for whatever variable is missing. So the distance is 4,329. The rate is what we're trying to figure out, so we're going to leave that as R, and the time is 3 hours. Again, we're trying to solve for R, so we're going to try to get R by itself, in other words. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. This gives me R equals 4,329 divided by 3. As I've mentioned in all my videos, you can regard fractions as long division. Namely, 4,329 over 3 is the same as 4,329 divided by 3. Let's go ahead and do this long division. 3 goes into 4 one time without going over. 3 times 1 is 3. Subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. We drop down this 3. We drop down this 2. We drop down this 9. So this is 3 to 9. 3 goes into 1. It doesn't. It's too small. 3 goes into 13 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. So we subtract. 13 minus 12 is 1. We drop down this 2. We drop down this 9. 3 goes into 1. It doesn't. It's too small. 3 goes into 12 4 times. 4 times 3, of course, is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0, so we just drop down this 9. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. So as we can see, there's no remainder. Therefore, we know the rate is 1,443 miles per hour, which is that one. So again, that was distance formula. Six more to go in this practice test. All right, number 11 says, carpet costs $3 per square yard. A room that will be carpeted is 12 feet by 18 feet. How much will the carpet cost? So right off the bat, you should recognize that you're given the cost in terms of square yardage, whereas you're given the dimensions of the room in terms of feet. So you either have to convert the yardage to feet or the feet to yards. We should know that there are 3 feet in every yard. So, and what's more, I know 12 and 18 are both divisible by 3. So to convert feet to yards, I'm just going to do 12 divided by 3, which is going to be 4 yards, by 18 divided by 3, which is going to be 6 yards. So those are the new dimensions of the rectangular shaped room in yards. Again, it's a 6 by 4 yard room. Therefore, we're looking for square feet, which is going to be area. Area of a rectangle is length times width. Again, length is 6, width is 4. So the area in this case is going to be 24 yards squared. It's 3 feet per square yard, so we'll take 24, multiply it by 3. 4 times 3 is 12, carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So we can see it's going to cost $72 to carpet a room that is 18 feet by 12 feet by 18 feet, or 4 yards by 6 yards at a cost of $3 per square yard. So that's that one. All right, number 12 says a product originally cost $125. If the product goes on sale for 20% off and then goes on sale for additional 30% off, what is the price of the product? So if it's $125 and it goes on sale for 20% off, to figure out how much off that is, we do 125 times 0.2. Again, we're doing multiplication of a whole number by a decimal. In reality, we want to do multiplication by 2 whole numbers, and to do that, I'm going to shift this decimal place 1 time. So I'm going to do 125 times 2, albeit with 1 decimal to add back in at the end. 5 times 2 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2. Shift our 1 decimal back in. So the first discount is in the amount of $25. So that takes us from 125 minus 25 to just $100. The next discount is 30% off. So we're going to take 100, multiply it by 0.3. We should know that this is going to be 30 without having to work this out. So we're going to take this and subtract it from the discounted price. 100 minus 30 we should see is 70. Okay, so in this case we had to do 2 iterations of discounts. We went from 125 to 100, which was 20% off. Then we went from 100 to 70, which was 30% off of the second discount. Okay, so that's that one. Fairly straightforward. All right, let's go ahead and move on to 13. 4 more and we're done. And as you can tell, these practice tests are tedious for me as well. So if you're struggling as you work your way through these, that's the expectation. Number 13 says if you invest, and let me get rid of that. I don't need that. I don't know why that's showing up. Let me get rid of that. All right, good. Number 13 says if you invest $10,000 at an annual rate of 7%, how much interest will you earn after 1 year? So in this case, we need to know the formula for simple interest. That's I equals P times R times T, where I stands for the amount of interest you earn, P stands for your principal or your original investment, R stands for the rate at which you earn interest, and T stands for time. Again, like the distance formula, we're looking for these elements and just plugging them into the equation. Again, you invest $10,000, so you know that's your principal. You're given a rate of 7%, which we're going to write as 0.07. And we want to figure out how much interest you're going to earn after 1 year, which is going to be your time. So with those identified, let's go ahead and plug them in. Again, I equals principal, that's 10,000. Your rate is 0.07 and your time is 1. Again, anything times 1 is itself. So we can kind of disregard that because 1 times 10,000 is 10,000. 1 times 0.07 is just 0.07. So this becomes 10,000 times 0.07. Now, as I mentioned in all my videos, it's very easy to do multiplication and division when you have a factor of 10, because all you do in response to that is shift the decimal place left or right accordingly. When it's multiplication, you shift the decimal place right, and when it's division, you shift the decimal place left according to how many zeros there are in the power of 10. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in 10,000. So what I'm going to do is shift this decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, add my zeros accordingly. So I know 10,000 times 0.07 is just going to give me 700, which means that if you invest 10,000 at a rate of 0.07 for 1 year, you're going to accrue $700 in interest. Simple interest. So that's that one. All right, number 14 says Glenn's new house has 5 rooms and a hallway. The bedroom is 12 by 13. So the bedroom is 12 by 13. The kitchen is 16 by 15. The living room is 11 by 14 or 14 by 11. I just like to write the bigger number on top. The office and bathroom are both 14 by 8. So there's 2 of those. And the hallway is 12 by 3. What is the square footage of his new house? So to find the square footage, we find the area of each of the rooms, which are given to us in length times width, and then we add all those up. Very easy to make a mistake doing this, so I suggest you take your time. Some problems on the ASVAB just throw a lot of real basic arithmetic at you to make sure that you take your time and are comfortable doing a lot of iterations of real basic math. So 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. Add a 0 since we're starting this number. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. Let's add. 6 plus 0 is 6. 3 times 2 is 5. 1 plus nothing is 1. So that room's 156 square feet. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry the 3. 5 times 1 is 5. 6, 7, 8. Starting this 1, so we have to add a 0. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. Let's add. 0 plus 0 is 0. 8 plus 6 is 14. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, so that's 240 square feet. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 4 is... Oh, and since we're starting this number, we have to add a 0. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. So let's add. 4 plus 0 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Nothing plus 1 is just 1. 14 times 8. 8 times 4 is 32. Carry the 3. 8 times 1 is 8. 9, 10, 11. These are the same, so I know that's going to be 112 as well. And 12 times 3 is 36. So let's go ahead and add these up. Again, we got 240, 156, 154, 112, 112, and 36. We're going to add up all these square footages. 6 plus 4 is 10. 6 plus 4 is 10. So I know this is going to be 20 with a 2 carried. Let's go ahead and work this out. 5 plus 5 is 10. 11, 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. 15 plus 4 is 19. 19 plus 2 is 21. Carry the 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So as we can see, this one is 810 square feet. And as far as how you decide to add up all those numbers goes, my advice is you do you. Okay, number 15 says if 4 people can stain a deck in 2 days, how many people would it require to stain the deck in 1 day? If it takes 4 to do it in 2 days, it's going to take twice that amount to do it in 1 day. 4 times 2 would just be 8. Again, there's nothing really to do to set up that problem. You just have to be able to see that you're doing the work in half the amount of time, so it's going to take twice as many people. Okay? So that's that one. All right. Number 16 says, at the Sumter County Fair, Brad sold the following pieces of artwork: a sculpture for $80, an oil painting for $168, and an ink drawing for $52, and a photograph for $52. What was the average price for the pieces of artwork? So the mean, or the average, is going to be the sum of all of them divided by how many there are. So it's going to be 80 plus 168 plus 52 plus 52. Make sure I got all those. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to divide this by 4 since there's 4 of them. And that will get us the average cost of it per piece of his artwork. As was the case in the last problem, we're going to have to do some vertical addition. 168, 52, 52, and 80. Although this time it's not as bad as last time. 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 5 plus 5 is 10. 6 plus 8 is 14. So 10 plus 14 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Carry the 2. 1 plus 2 is 3, so we can see that this becomes 352 over 4. And again, all fractions can be regarded as division. So we're going to do 352 divided by 4. 4 goes into 3. It doesn't. It's too small. 4 goes into 35. Let's see how many times. 8 times. 4 times 8 is 32. 35 minus 32 is 3. We drop down this 2. 4 goes into 32 8 times. 8 times 4 is 32. So we can see 32 minus 32 is 0. So we can see that the average price for a piece of Brad's artwork is $88. Okay? So that's all there was to this practice test. As I mentioned in my last video, I'm going to release practice tests 7 through 10 fairly soon. I have one more video to make for practice test 6, and once I do that, I'll go ahead and release the other practice test. If you found this video helpful, feel free to give it a thumbs up. As always, I appreciate any feedback you leave in the comments section below. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and cut you loose. Konnichiwa.